The crowd that once cheered your downfall now leaves them stranded in silence, because no throne stands when the audience walks away. My dear chosen ones, welcome. You've carried weight no one saw, a storm of whispers, smirks, and sly glances that were designed to make you fold. For years, you were told without words that you were the outsider, the one meant to be laughed at, excluded, minimized. But here's the twist that rattles their bones. The game they've played all along was never about strength. It was about numbers. Their dominance was smoke and mirrors, powered not by courage, but by the complicity of the many. And now, those many have vanished. Do you feel it yet? The shift? That eerie quiet in the room where once every laugh felt aimed at you, where every sneer seemed to echo louder than your own thoughts. That silence isn't emptiness, it's power. It's proof that you were never the weak one. You were simply surrounded by a rented audience, people who lent their energy to a show that no longer entertains them. For years, they strutted around as if the crown on their head was forged in gold. But now everyone can see it. It was only paper, flimsy and fake, held together by borrowed approval. Chosen ones, ask yourself this. What happens to the self-proclaimed ruler when the applause dies? What becomes of the so-called lion when the pack scatters? The answer is simple. They become what they've always been. Small, fragile, desperate, pacing like caged actors on a stage no one attends. And before we step into the next revelation, my dear chosen ones, take a moment to show your strength in a different way. Support this movement, support this voice, and support the truth by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Every click, every share, every comment fuels the fire that allows us to keep bringing you the kind of inspiring, life-changing and electrifying content that lifts you higher. Your presence matters here, not just as a viewer, but as a force. Together we rise, we endure, and we never let the silence of truth fade away. Picture it clearly. The same insults they once hurled at you now ring hollow, bouncing back in the cavern of an empty theater. Their words used to pierce because others nodded along, because whispers in the background turned their lies into legends. But now those words collapse under their own weight. No one repeats them. No one validates them. No one dares to be associated with them. Their voice is no longer amplified. It's swallowed by silence. And you, chosen one, get to watch. Not with revenge in your heart, but with the satisfaction of knowing the script has been rewritten without you lifting a finger. They thought you were alone, didn't they? That was their favorite weapon. Isolation. To make you feel like the outsider in every room, like the one voice against a chorus too loud to silence. But here's the irony. Their so-called strength depended entirely on that chorus. Without it, they have nothing. They never had the courage to stand on their own. You did, and that's why you're still standing while they are crumbling. My chosen ones, let this sink in. The mob was never your enemy. It was your proof. Proof that your presence was strong enough to require an entire army of nods and whispers to suppress you. Proof that one person, yes, you, was significant enough to justify their endless theater of cruelty. Doesn't it strike you as funny now? The fact that it took dozens, sometimes hundreds, of silent accomplices to even create the illusion that you were weak. That's not weakness on your part. That's intimidation on theirs. They feared you long before you realized your own power. And now, as the crowd has turned its back, you stand in a position they'll never understand. Because power that is borrowed vanishes. Power that is chosen, yours, endures. They built their identity like sandcastles, dazzling only while the tide was still. You, chosen one, were the tide, and now it's risen. Their castles are collapsing. They will ask themselves why. Why did the crowd leave? Why don't the laughs come anymore? Why does every attempt at control feel like quicksand under their feet? And the cruelest truth of all is that there's no single answer, just a collection of realizations. The community saw through them. The mask cracked. The amusement wore off. The silence spread. It doesn't matter what excuse they cling to, the fact remains the same. They are exposed. And you, my chosen ones, you are untouched. That's the difference. You survived their cycle of cruelty without betraying yourself. You endured their games, not by overpowering them, but by outlasting them. While they relied on the mob's applause, you relied on your own endurance. While they borrowed armor from others, you sharpened yours in solitude. Now the stage is reversed. They stand in the spotlight, sweating under the glare, and the audience is gone. You, the so-called outsider, are no longer the one on trial. They are. This isn't about revenge. It's about revelation, about finally seeing what was always true. Their empire was hollow, their confidence counterfeit, their power borrowed. And now that the debt is due, they have nothing left but themselves, and themselves are not enough. So lift your head, chosen ones. You've already won by surviving long enough to witness their undoing. Their collapse is the answer to every question you ever whispered to yourself in the dark. Was I really weak? Number. You were always stronger. Did I deserve their cruelty? Number. They needed cruelty to distract from their own emptiness. Would the crowd ever see the truth? Yes. And now they have. The curtain has fallen. The audience has left. The theater is empty. And the final act isn't theirs. It's yours. And chosen ones, before we go further, let me pause to thank you. Yes, you. Whether this is your very first step with us, or you've been standing strong beside this journey from the beginning, know this. Your presence is what keeps this fire alive. If you've ever felt the sting of an entire community turning their backs, if you've ever seen the masks fall when no one will help them bully you anymore, then you know this message is yours. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop the number 77 in the comments if you're ready to claim this shift as your proof. Your support, through likes, comments, shares, and even super thanks, fuels the strength to keep creating life-changing revelations like this. And now, let's step deeper, because if you are truly chosen, you will feel every word like a mirror reflecting your own story. Ordinary people can't recognize these signs, but you can. Let's get started. Number 1. Stripped of the crowd, their power evaporates. When the crowd folds, their throne turns to paper. The loudest tyrant in the room is small when no one gives him an audience. His crown was never metal, only applause. My dear chosen ones, look at them now. For years they pretended to stand tall because a chorus of nods and laughter propped them up. Their swagger was not forged in courage. It was rented. Every shove, every cruel joke, every smear was amplified by a crowd that lent its voice, its silence, and its approval. But a throne held together by other people's breath and approval does not survive the moment the breath stops. When the chorus collapses, the ruler is revealed as nothing more than paper, brittle, and shameful in the wind. Ask yourself, chosen ones, why did their words cut so deep? Why did their presence feel like an avalanche? The answer is simple and brutal. You weren't weak. Their power was borrowed. They were wearing armor stitched from other people's fear and complacency. Alone, stripped of that borrowed armor, they are awkward, exposed, and desperately small. The big, roaring voice you remember is revealed as a squeak when no one cheers in the background. That's the revelation. Numbers were never their substance. They were the circus. And when the ticket holders leave, the tent collapses. Picture the scene. A stage once packed, lights aimed at a single figure. The audience leaned forward for every cruelty, feeding it with attention. But now the seats are empty. The same performer who once basked in reactionality paces center stage, talking to air, hearing only his own hollow cadence. The monologue that once felt like dominion now sounds like loneliness. That is their undoing. Their threats feel impotent because there's no one left to echo them into danger. Their confidence evaporates because it was never theirs to begin with. It was borrowed from the people who enabled them. You may be thinking, will they try to rebuild? Will the chorus come back? Sometimes they will attempt to reconstruct the performance, a desperate joke, a manufactured ally, a public stunt. But patched-up illusions cannot mimic genuine power. People do not return to be complicit forever. They tire of falseness, boredom sets in, and morals, or at least common sense, eventually push them away. Even if a few stick around temporarily, the spectacle has been exposed. The mask has cracked and everyone sees the seams. The moment of exposure changes the game permanently. Another question that might be in your head, chosen ones, is this: am I supposed to gloat? Number. This isn't about relishing pain or trading cruelty for cruelty. This is about clarity, about watching the construct fall without poisoning yourself with revenge. Let the universe, or human nature, handle the correction. You survived because you were steady, not reactive. While they built a house of borrowed applause, you built a foundation inside yourself. That foundation does not collapse when the crowd does. In fact, it shines in the empty auditorium, unbothered and real. Think of their power like a paper crown in a storm. From afar, it looked majestic, glinting under spotlights. Up close, it was fragile, folding at the first gust. The crowd was the wind that held it aloft. When the breeze reversed, the crown flapped and fell. You, chosen ones, are not the crown. You're the bedrock the wind cannot move. They panicked because their entire identity required others to worry for them. You never needed that validation to be whole. What happens to their posture, their voice, their swagger when the crowd dissolves? Watch closely, because their unraveling is instructive. Posture sags. The confident step becomes hesitant. The quip that once landed with applause now hangs in silence, absurd and lonely. Their threats become the tremor of someone bluffing with empty cards. You used to feel powerless because the noise drowned out everything else. Now that the noise is gone, you finally get to hear the truth. And the truth is small. The epic story they told themselves about dominance was a fairy tale written by an echo chamber. Without the echo, the tale collapses. And here's something for the skeptics. This collapse is not always dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, like a light going out in a room. The bully who once needed 100 people to feel tall learns, in the absence of those people, that height is not a given. They try to rebuild their identity with louder acts or with bluster, but desperation is transparent. You will notice their moves because you've seen the original pattern. Recognize it, chosen ones, and do not be lured into fueling it again. So what does this mean for you? It means your victory has already begun. It means endurance, not retaliation, is the truest weapon. It means the loudest person in the room cannot rule you if no one answers him. It means you can return to the simple, powerful truth. Their strength depended on quantity. Yours depends on quality. The quality of your resolve, your character, your calm. They counted on numbers to drown you out. That number is gone. Their throne is paper. Their roar is an echo with no source. And you, solid, chosen, uncompromised, remain. Hold your head high, chosen ones. The collapse you're witnessing is proof that you were never the problem. You were the anomaly they couldn't accept. Now that acceptance has vanished, their reign is over. Watch, learn, and let the truth settle like dust on their empty stage. Your power is quieter, truer, and far more enduring than anything they ever pretended to have. Number 2, the deadly weight of a silent audience. Silence strikes harder than any tongue. Silence isn't empty, it's an indictment. The quiet that walks away slaps harder than 1,000 insults ever could. My dear chosen ones, listen close. This quiet you're feeling is not surrender. It's a verdict. For years they hid behind chatter, burying cruelty beneath the noise of approval. Laughter, whispers, claps, those were their shields. The soundscape made their cruelty tolerable, even fashionable. But when everyone stops applauding, the act is exposed as exactly what it was, an ugly performance. And that absence, that heavy, echoing nothing, is the most brutal truth they can face. You might ask, why does silence hurt more than direct attacks? Because insults sting only if someone listens. A barb lands when it's repeated, when it's nodded at, when 100 invisible hands lift it into legend. Silence removes the amplifier. It turns their words into weeds in a barren field. Pointless, unnoticed, powerless. When the crowd goes quiet, the bully is not just ignored, they are unmade. Their language loses weight. Their stories stop circulating. The social currency that bought them respect evaporates. That kind of erasure hits the core of anyone who built a life on being watched. Imagine a theater where every cruel line used to get a standing ovation. The bully drank that attention like water. Now the house lights come up and the seats are empty. The performer paces, trying a line, waiting for a laugh that doesn't come. The air is heavy with a verdict louder than any shout. No one will play along. That void is punishment enough. No call out, no fight, just an unmistakable withdrawal of consent. The community's silence says, without a single syllable, we will not participate in this harm anymore. You may wonder, chosen ones, if silence is cowardly, as if people are refusing to act. But that's the lie they tell themselves to feel better. Withdrawal is not cowardice here, it's accountability without spectacle. It requires no drama, no confrontation. It is a collective refusal to feed a monster. It is judgment, rendered quietly, but unmistakably. The result? The bully is left to contend with themselves and the emptiness their tactics created. That gnaws at them in a way a single public argument never could. Shame and irrelevance do a deeper work than humiliation on the stage. How do they respond when the applause dies? Watch for the signs. They will try to manufacture attention, louder jokes, public stunts, frantic alliances, but desperation is transparent. They will rage, plead, or attempt to gaslight the narrative back into their favor, but without the chorus of support, their efforts fall flat. The grin that depended on being mirrored fades. Their posture sags. Confidence becomes a performance of itself, and performances without an audience are comic and sad. And what should you, chosen ones, do? Nothing theatrical. You observe. You allow reality to do its job. Your endurance is your power. Remember, the goal is not to humiliate, but to survive and outlast. The community's silence will teach them lessons that confrontation never could. It rewires the story around them. People stop sharing their jokes, stop repeating their rumors, and slowly the bully's narrative dissolves. The absence of participation is re-education. It rewrites social currency so that cruelty no longer pays. This silence is also your signal. It confirms that the tide has turned. Where once you were isolated by noise, now you are vindicated by quiet. The lack of chatter around them says what all protests might fail to say. They are no longer relevant. You, chosen ones, are free to rebuild your presence without being drowned out by manufactured consensus. The withdrawal is the community choosing integrity over spectacle, and you are the living proof that cruelty cannot survive without willing witnesses. So stand steady in this hush. Let the silence be your ally. Watch the empty stage. Watch the performer lose their lines and know that you did not need to strike back. The world simply stopped listening. That is the loudest, cleanest justice there is. Number 3, loyalty fades and their confidence decays. Betrayal eats quietly. It feels like decay. Betrayal doesn't crack like thunder. It seeps like rust, and by the time they notice, everything that looked solid is eaten through. My dear chosen ones, sit with that image. For them, the world felt bulletproof because they had an architecture of convenience propping them up. Nods, whispered confirmations, invisible back channels, and the occasional well-timed laugh. That scaffolding let them wear cruelty like a suit of armor. Their actions were bold because someone somewhere would always patch the cracks. But when the patchwork peels away, what remains is not drama. It's dissolution. Betrayal is not a single cinematic blow. It is a slow-acting corrosion that reduces swagger to scrap metal. Ask yourself, why does this hurt them more than a confrontation ever would? Because confrontation is loud and finite. You can answer it, face it, survive it. Betrayal is quieter. It removes the props without noise, one by one. Their allies don't march in with banners to condemn. They simply stop coming. The whispers fade. The supportive glances turn into polite distance. What looked like loyalty was actually a ledger of convenience. And when the balance tips, the ledger is closed. Chosen ones, that quiet withdrawal is the sharpest truth. The ecosystem that enabled their cruelty is collapsible, and collapse looks like decay. Imagine a building left to the elements. At first, it's cosmetic, a chipped paint, a loose tile. Days pass, then months, and the rot spreads inside the walls where no one looks. That's their confidence. Outwardly, they might try to act untouched, but inside, the foundations are eroding. Every old advantage, the whispered endorsements, the co-opted narratives, the shared jokes that built their myth, loses its adhesive. They stand in spaces that once felt safe, now listening to the distant echo of abandonment. The arrogance that seemed permanent is actually just a thin veneer over deepening emptiness. You might be wondering, chosen ones, should I feel vindictive watching this? This is not about the sweetness of revenge, it's about recognition. The slow decay is not a triumph of cruelty over cruelty, it's an unavoidable consequence of a truth that always existed but was hidden by noise. They constructed a persona out of other people's tolerance. When tolerance deserts them, that persona becomes a ghost. They are left not with enemies on the attack, but with absent friends. And absence has a way of revealing what was only ever performance. There is a cruel poetry in this. The very people who taught them to depend on convenience now teach them the cost of dependency. The alliances they treated as loyalty were transactional. They were partnerships of comfort rather than conviction. When convenience evaporates, whether out of moral awakening, boredom, or simple self-preservation, the alliance dissolves. It's not theatrical justice, it's institutional entropy. Their identity disintegrates from the inside because it was never authentic. This erosion shows itself in tiny ways. The tight jokes that used to land with a ripple now die on the floor. The body language changes. Rigid confidence gives way to a twitching uncertainty. Attempts to summon the old chorus fail because the chorus has moved on. Even when they try to reconstruct power with louder voices or staged gestures, desperation reads through. People sense it because people always sense desperation. There's no applause left to fake it with. For you, chosen ones, the lesson here is clarity. Endurance is a subtler weapon than confrontation. You did not have to dismantle their network. You simply needed to remain unbroken long enough for the network to notice its own instability. Your survival exposes their unsustainable structure. Where they built an identity on being propped up, you built a life that does not require padding. And that makes your presence the final catalyst in their decay. So watch, but do not indulge. Observe how their myth unravels not in spectacle, but in small, corrosive truths. Notice the faces that once shielded them, now maintaining distance. Hear the silence where applause used to be. That silence is not neutral, it is corrective. It is the world refusing to keep funding an ugly performance. Hold fast, chosen ones. The slow collapse of their power is proof that cruelty cannot sustain itself without willing support. The decay is not a punishment you meted out. It's the inevitable end of a structure built on convenience, not conviction. Keep your dignity, keep your distance. Let the corrosion do its work while you stand steady, unconsumed by the rot that finally reveals the truth. Number 4. When the mask slips, everyone sees too much. When eyes opened, the crowd stepped away. Nothing collapses faster than a lie under daylight, and the brightest light is other people finally looking. My dear chosen ones, this is the moment to savor. They didn't lose their throne because the room went quiet by accident. The crowd didn't simply drift off. They finally saw too much to ignore, too ugly to stomach. Bullying survives not because cruelty is clever, but because people agree to believe the story that makes it bearable. For years, the abuser's script depended on willing actors. Laughs at the right time, averted eyes when cruelty landed, the quiet nods that turned rumor into truth. That suspension of disbelief is a social contract, and when the audience tears it up, the whole play falls apart. You've felt it, chosen ones. You've stood in the middle of staged chaos while the chorus fed the lie. Every insult landed harder when dozen voices made it sound like fact. Every rumor grew wings because people chose to fan it. But what happens when those wings are clipped? The story sputters. The narrative that once justified their dominance unravels because the people who propped it up decide they no longer want to be co-authors of cruelty. That's not apathy. It's awakening. It's people recognizing that what they were laughing at was not strength, but fear dressed as performance. So what does seeing too much look like in the real world? It's the neighbor who finally notices the pattern instead of excusing it. It's the co-worker who remembers the details and chooses not to repeat them. It's the friend who stops covering a lie because they no longer want to be part of it. Seeing too much means witnessing the crack in the mask, observing the envy behind the mockery, the insecurity beneath the swagger, the panic hidden by bluster. When enough observers connect those dots, silence turns into action, a slow, collective stepping away. Not dramatic confrontation, just withdrawal, no applause, no complicity, no safety net. And for the abuser, that withdrawal is seismic. They learn to read the room like a map of allies. When the map disappears, their orientation fails. Every boast now sounds like a plea. Every attempt at control looks like a reenactment, an actor overcompensating. The more they try to recreate the old dynamics, the more transparent their desperation becomes. They cannot manufacture credibility after credibility has been revoked. The crowd's quiet absence is not neutral, it is verdict and sentence. It says, "We will no longer be your props." You might ask, chosen ones, why didn't the crowd see sooner? People tolerate small cruelties because denial is easier than responsibility. It's socially convenient to smile and move on. But recognition spreads like wildfire once one person names the truth. One voice that refuses to laugh becomes permission for others to stop pretending. That single act of clarity is contagious. The community's eyes open not because they suddenly become saints, but because their threshold for tolerating untruths is reached. They choose integrity over entertainment. This revelation serves you because it proves what you always suspected. The abuser's power was never authentic. It was a projection sustained by collective denial. Now that projection has peeled away, what remains is the real person. small, cornered, echoing into a room that no longer answers. And you, chosen ones, are the living evidence of that hollow spectacle. Your endurance laid the groundwork for this unmasking. You did not need to fight every battle. You only needed to persist until the audience's view changed. There's also liberation in watching this unfold. The crowd seeing is a gift to you. It removes the need for you to defend your truth at every turn. The communal withdrawal redirects attention from the staged narrative back to reality. Your reputation reasserts itself not because you shouted, but because the space that once amplified lies has emptied. Let them pace their solitary stages. Let them rehearse their lines to no one. The real change is the community no longer participating in the performance. So hold steady, chosen ones. This moment of exposure is not a finale for you. It's a clearing. The people who once enabled cruelty have chosen not to be accomplices. The silence that follows their departure is not emptiness. It's the sound of truth finally being heard. Keep your head high, because while they are revealed, you are vindicated. The crowd didn't just leave. They saw too much, and in that seeing, they chose you. Number 5. Exposed as a clown, never a leader. Stripped of stagecraft, from puppet master to punchline. Attention was their currency. Once the crowd stopped spending, the so-called king is left bankrupt and ridiculous. My dear chosen ones, watch this carefully. For years, they mastered one simple trick: turn cruelty into entertainment. They learned how to make you flinch on camera, how to engineer a gasp in a room, how to string together a cruel joke that landed as a standing ovation because people loved the spectacle more than they hated the harm. They dressed intimidation as performance and sold it as leadership. But pay attention, there's a world of difference between applause and authority, and that difference is exactly what will destroy them. Why did the crowd laugh? Because spectacle is addictive. It's easier to be amused than to be accountable. It's more convenient to chuckle than to call out cruelty. The audience wanted a show, and the bully provided one. Dramatic entrances, theatrical insults, the kind of brazen theatrics that forced reactions. They weren't leading, they were acting. Their power was a spotlight effect. Bright, noticeable, but ultimately shallow. They mistook the oohs and ahs for respect, the gasps for loyalty. They built an identity on being entertaining and confused the noise with legitimacy. Ask yourself, chosen ones, how does a leader behave differently from a performer? A leader creates trust, takes responsibility, and lifts others. A performer seeks eyes and applause, even if it costs others their dignity. That's the heart of it. They never invested in respect, only in reactions. Their armor was laughter. Their weapon was spectacle. And when the crowd finally sees the cruelty behind the act, the laugh stops being an endorsement and becomes a judgment. Imagine a carnival where the ringleader keeps flipping the same cruel trick. At first, people are shocked and intrigued. They lean in, then the act repeats. The shock fades. What's left is a repetition of meanness disguised as entertainment. People begin to notice the strain, how the performer's eyes look smaller, how the jokes target the same vulnerable people, how the bravado is used to mask insecurity. The performance loses novelty, and with it, the crowd's willingness to be complicit. Once the audience recognizes they were enjoying someone else's harm, they step away. And when they step away, the ringleader is exposed as nothing but a caricature. You might be wondering, chosen ones, can they recover? Can a performer pivot into a leader? Sometimes, but only if they drop the mask, take responsibility, and rebuild from humility, something many cannot do. For those built entirely on spectacle, the fall is existential. Their identity is not flexible, it is fixed by applause. Once the applause dies, so does the persona. They attempt stunts, louder lines, staged controversies, manufactured allies, but desperation looks the same whether it's subtle or brazen. The community grows wise to it. Entertainment without ethics rings hollow, and people stop tuning in. This shift is not only public humiliation, it's a psychological unraveling. When your self-worth has been calibrated to applause, silence becomes unbearable. They begin to flail, to escalate, to push boundaries in a last-ditch effort to regain attention. That escalation only cements the truth. They never led, they performed. And you, chosen ones, are freed from the theater's spell. The very thing that used to make you a target, their need for spectacle, now reveals them as the joke. Hold this truth like a shield. Influence that survives is influence that serves. Real power is quiet competence and consistent integrity. It doesn't demand constant validation. It builds trust over time. The so-called leader who relied on laughs had no foundation. Their legacy is not one of guidance, but of wasted breath and misplaced adoration. The people who once tolerated them now see the cost of that tolerance. What remains for the performer is an empty spotlight, an echo of applause that no one remembers. So stand tall, chosen ones. As the community's attention stops feeding their act, watch them shrink into the shadow of their own theatrics. Your survival wasn't about winning the crowd, it was about not letting the crowd define you. They thought they led because everyone watched. You were never defined by their theater. The house lights are up, and the audience can finally see the set for what it was. Cheap scenery covering shaky props. Their performance is over. The true leaders among you, quiet, resilient, and real, remain. Number 6. Performing alone in an empty theater. Performing to empty seats, their spotlight became a solitary cage. Applause built their throne, silence tore it down. Watch them try to act brave under lights that no longer warm. My dear chosen ones, picture it. They learned cruelty as theater. Every smear was a line, every sneer a practiced pause, every rumor a cue for the crowd to lean in. They polished their timing until the jokes landed like blows, and when those blows were met with gasps or laughter, they wore it like armor. The audience was their co-conspirator, the invisible hand that turned small cruelty into public spectacle. For them, influence was not earned, it was staged. Their confidence swelled on reaction, their identity depended on witnesses. Now, the witnesses are gone. It's one thing to be exposed in front of people. It's another to realize that the crowd you counted on to validate you has quietly vacated the room. The lights are still on, the microphone still hangs, but there's no hum of approval, no rustle of agreement. That empty auditorium is not just physical space. It's the yardstick that measures everything they pretended to be. In the beginning, their power felt real because everyone fed it. But power that needs an audience is not power, it's performance. And performances end when the ticket holders lose interest. You might ask, chosen ones, why does this matter to you? Because what they used against you was spectacle. A criminal drama where you were the victim and they the star. Their cruelty demanded an audience so that it could seem larger than it was. Without that audience, the spectacle deflates. The same gestures that once silenced you now echo back into an empty hall. Their bravado becomes absurd in the vacuum. The swagger becomes a stutter. And you, steady, unperformed, real, watch the farce collapse. Imagine watching an actor keep calling for laughs that never come. It's painful and pathetic at once. The jokes that earned them dominance are now swallowed by silence. The more they flail, the clearer it becomes. They were never a leader, only an entertainer who mistook shock for authority. That desperate seeking of reaction is their undoing. When no one leans forward, when no one mirrors their anger, their entire foundation, applause, attention, approval, disappears. They are left standing like a puppet whose strings have been cut. Questions will arise in their minds, and maybe yours. Will they try to fake it? Will they hire a smaller crowd? They will attempt stunts, tantrums, and manufactured controversies. They might seek petty allies or stage public reconciliations to win a few nods. But these are patches on a broken stage. People tire of drama that costs them nothing and harms others. When complicity becomes reputational risk, the cheap seats empty first. That's the pivot. What once was a spectacle becomes a cautionary tale, and the crowd, finally awake, refuses to play along. There's a lesson here for you, chosen ones. Their humiliation is not a call to celebrate cruelty with more cruelty. It's a reminder to value endurance over reaction. While they trained their muscles for performance, you trained your spine for life. You did not build yourself on applause. You built your truth on integrity. When the carnivalesque attention fades, the person who survives is the one who didn't need an audience to exist. That's you. And let us be honest, performing to an empty room is worse than failure. It's exposure. Every tactic they rehearsed now reads like a confession. The mask that once masked their emptiness falls away under the cold, bright lights. They are forced to confront their own smallness, not in a dramatic reveal, but in prolonged, humiliating silence. The psychological crack is slow, but irreversible. The performative ego erodes, and with it, their ability to intimidate. So sit back and pay attention, chosen ones. There is power in observation. Watch how their stunts lose meaning without witnesses. Watch how their threats shrink when no one amplifies them. This is not revenge, it's evidence. Evidence that cruelty without accountability is temporary, but your resolve is permanent. Let the empty theater do its work. Let the echo of vanished applause be the soundtrack to their exposure. The show is over. And you are still here, unperformed and undefeated. Number 7. The predator becomes the outcast. The predator becomes the ghost, alone in the room they once ruled. Once you weaponize loneliness against others, expect it to be the sentence you serve. The room will remember who made the silence. My dear chosen ones, watch this reversal like a lesson carved in slow motion. For years they perfected a cruel economy, trade inclusion for compliance, turn whispers into strategy, and manufacture allies who would prop up a single domineering figure. They made you the outsider so that their throne could be crowded with nods, with quiet approvals, with people too nervous to call out the cruelty. Isolation was their chosen weapon. It was their way to convince themselves that power could be purchased through fear and social choreography. But weapons break when used too long, and now the blade has turned inward. Think of the last time you walked into a room where they waited, how their posture demanded attention, how their smirk tested the air, how the group's energy aligned to make them look larger than life. That was deliberate. They fed on proximity, on the magnetic pull of others who would laugh, deflect, or stay silent. But power that depends on being surrounded is a fragile thing. Remove the crowd, and what remains is not a leader. It's a hollow man rehearsing dominance to an empty hall. You might ask, chosen ones, is this justice or mere coincidence? Does the universe conveniently correct these imbalances, or did people finally decide enough is enough? It's both. Communities change. People tire of performing moral amnesia. Watching cruelty become entertainment wears on the conscience. The same people who once turned away find small truths too loud to ignore. The result is immediate and devastating for the abuser. The rooms they once owned become spaces where eyes slide past them, where conversations close off, and where their presence triggers a subtle retreat. It's not loud punishment, it's social recalibration. Imagine their confusion. They stride in expecting the usual chorus of validation and confront, instead a vacuum. The jokes fall flat. The old allies offer only polite nods. Then conversation moves on without them. Invitations cease to appear. They search for familiar faces and find emptiness instead. That awkwardness, the way shoulders tense when they approach, the way laughter stops short, is their reckoning. They are learning, painfully, what it feels like to be the one isolated, invisible, dismissed. And don't mistake temporary theatrics for recovery. They'll try the usual plays: louder laughter, forced charm, manufactured generosity, thin attempts at apology, or clumsy shows of repentance. But these are patches on a wound caused by pattern, not one-off errors. People sense authenticity, and an image built on manipulation cannot be mended by theatrics. The isolation that lands on them now is not random exile. It's the logical consequence of a social contract they broke repeatedly. You see, chosen ones, communities are not blind forever. They notice the accumulation of harm, and when the cost of association rises, people protect themselves. What does this mean for you? It means vindication that needs no shouting. You were not the problem. You were the proof. They relied on your perceived separation to justify loud cruelty. You endured, and endurance reveals the true architecture of power, whether it was constructed from merit or manufactured from fear. Their isolation flips the script and gives you the vantage point to observe without consuming yourself with retaliation. There's no glee here, only clear sight. The predator is now the ghost. You may wonder, should I step forward, gloat, or confront? Number. The strongest move is restraint. Let the silence speak. Let their attempts to reinsert themselves meet the polite indifference that holds more weight than any argument you could make. People watching will interpret their desperation correctly. Your calm becomes a mirror, showing what civility looks like without performance. When you reclaim your place in rooms, do so with dignity. Your presence will then be a declaration that you never needed the crowd to be whole. Finally, remember this. Isolation teaches what cruelty could not. Alone, stripped of the props that once inflated them, they are forced to face the emptiness their tactics created. And in that facing, whether they heal, hide, or crumble, the lesson is public and permanent. You, chosen ones, have an obligation to remain more than a survivor. Be the example of steadiness, the quiet proof that real influence grows from integrity, not from the currency of fear. Watch them shrink into the very silence they once manufactured, and let that silence confirm your endurance and theirs collapse. Number 8. Their name becomes a risk, not a shield. Their name became nuclear. No one wants to be burned by association. Their name used to open doors. Now it's a hot coal nobody wants to hold. My dear chosen ones, listen closely. There's a cruel twist to social power that the bullies counted on. They weren't powerful because they were feared, so much as because others were willing to risk being seen with them. For years, proximity was protection. Being near them felt safe, even opportunistic. People tolerated their venom because siding with cruelty carried little cost and sometimes came with perks, laughs, access, standing. But when association flips from advantage to liability, everything crumbles faster than you can imagine. Why did people stay? Because for a long time, the path of least resistance was to look the other way. Joining their circle was comfortable. Defending them was easy. It required no courage, only the willingness to be convenient. But now the social ledger has been rewritten. The actions that were once just a joke or harmless drama are now seen as stains, and the stain sticks. Their name has become toxic currency. Mention it and watch potential allies hesitate. Watch careers, friendships, and reputations recoil. People don't want the splatter on their shoes. They don't want the fallout. You might wonder, chosen ones, could this change reverse? Can their supporters reassemble and rebuild the myth? Sometimes a few will try, a stubborn friend, a loyal enabler. But watch how quickly those attempts are neutralized. When the cost of association rises, the calculus changes. People begin to protect their own reputations instead of padding someone else's delusions. They realize that being near a storm doesn't make them brave, it makes them muddy. The social safety net that once cushioned cruelty is cut away because the risk of being dragged down outweighs the temporary gain. This reversal is surgical and precise. Notice how avoidance replaces confrontation. People no longer feel compelled to argue or expose. They simply step back. The silence around the abuser becomes a protective quarantine. It's strategic, not vindictive. It's a community choosing not to be complicit, refusing the role of extra hands that once propped up a toxic performance. And that is the point where the facade fails. Without people willing to stand in the front row and clap, the show is over. What does this mean for you? It means the dynamics have shifted in ways that favor truth. Once you were the one under scrutiny, carrying whispers and sideways glances like unseen scars. Now look at the flip. They are the center of an absence. Their calls for backup go unanswered. Their attempts at swagger are met with polite distance, and the sting of that social vacancy is far worse than anything you endured, because isolation corrodes from the inside. While you healed in silence, they face the slow erosion of relevance. You may ask, should I speak up now? Do I need to remind everyone what happened? Number. Your strength is not in theatrics. The dismantling of their influence is already happening because people no longer want to be associated with their toxicity. If you speak, do it to center your truth, not to drag them. Allow the social mechanism to do the work. Your endurance is the evidence. Their isolation is the consequence. There's a practical lesson here too, chosen ones. Watch who distances themselves and why. People who step away are doing you and themselves a favor. Those who attempt to cling are revealing their own priorities. Comfort over integrity, convenience over conscience. Their reactions tell the story more clearly than any argument ever could. When association becomes fear, the abuser's options narrow to performative posturing and desperate outreach. Neither rebuilds genuine trust. And the ultimate irony? The fear they once wielded is replaced by a new kind of fear. Not fear of you or your supposed weakness, but fear of being tainted by them. That's poetic justice of a certain kind. Influence that survives only through other people's willingness to be compromised has no foundation. Once the cost of being near them rises, their throne collapses under the weight of consequences. So hold fast, chosen ones. This moment confirms what you already knew. You were never the liability. They were. The world is simply catching up. Keep your distance from the drama. Trust the social shift and let the isolation do its honest work. Their name is burning. Nobody wants the scorch marks. You keep building. You keep living. And the more they burn, the cleaner your path becomes. Number 9. Cruelty collapses without an audience. Cruelty needs an audience. Without it, their excuses collapse. Bullies are actors who rely on applause. Silence strips away the script and leaves only the awkward man in the spotlight. My dear chosen ones, listen closely. Cruelty is not a solo act. It lives and breathes because other people feed it. Every shove, every rumor, every casual laugh was a stitch in a costume that made them look larger than life. But stitch by stitch, that costume unravels the second the audience refuses to sew it back together. What they called confidence was nothing more than a chorus of nods, and when the chorus falls silent, their whole performance is exposed as flimsy theater. Ask yourself what happens when an insult no longer gets a chorus to bounce off. Does it land with force, or does it hang there, ridiculous and exposed? The answer is the truth you've been waiting for. Without witnesses to legitimize cruelty, their words become noise, hollow, embarrassing, and impotent. The handshake of complicity that once made them feel untouchable is gone. No more approval. No more whispered encouragement. No one to validate the story they were telling about themselves. For years, they hid behind the crowd's consent. Now they must face the mirror alone. You might wonder, will they try to justify it anyway? They will. Watch for the familiar tactics, louder jokes, staged bravado, frantic attempts to manufacture allies. But desperation is transparent. When someone's dominance depends on somebody else nodding, their attempts to recreate that nod are always brittle. They clutch at fragments of influence like a drowning person grabbing at driftwood. The more they flail, the more obvious it becomes that their authority was performative, not earned. Chosen ones recognize the difference between real presence and the theater of presence. You've been living next to the latter for too long. What does this mean for you practically? It means freedom. It means the moments that used to sting will sting less because the echo chamber that magnified them is gone. It means the social mechanics that turned you into a target have been dismantled at their foundation. The bully's power was social engineering, a network of consent and silence. When that network collapses, their rationale collapses with it. Their cruelty cannot be dressed up as leadership, charm, or entertainment anymore. It stands naked, and nakedness reveals the truth. Insecurity, fragility, and fear. And here's something that will hit them hardest. Exposure rewires perception. People who once looked away now see the pattern. Those who laughed because it was easier than standing up now recognize the desperation behind the jokes. Complicity recedes because association becomes costly. Nobody wants to be labeled as part of the problem once the problem is visible to all. The abuser who relied on the crowd's cover now understands what isolation really means. Where they once had applause, they now have a mirror reflecting their own emptiness. Should you retaliate? No, not because you're weak, but because triumph doesn't require violence. The most destructive thing you can do to them is refuse to participate. Let silence and indifference do the work. End the need for justification by withholding the very thing that created the need, approval. Watch as their attempts to rationalize their behavior crumble without witnesses to back their stories. The collapse isn't cataclysmic. It's surgical, clean, undeniable, and final. So hold your ground, chosen ones. The era when cruelty could be dressed up as influence is ending because people have started to see what it always was. Performance. You survived the spectacle. You outlasted the applause. Now the acts that once defined them only underline their emptiness. Their excuses have no audience. Their cruelty has no justification. And you, steady, unshakable, chosen, stand as the proof that true strength needs no validation. And so, chosen ones, we arrive at the truth. Their stage is empty, their voices hollow, and their power dismantled by the very silence they once depended on. You've endured the cycle, you've watched the illusion collapse, and now you stand untouched at the center of a revelation they can never reverse. This isn't just the end of their act, it's the beginning of your era. If you felt the power in this message, show it. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop the number 77 in the comments to declare that you see the signs and claim your place as one of the chosen. Share this with someone who needs the reminder that cruelty collapses when the crowd walks away. Your support fuels the fire to keep bringing you these life-changing revelations. Together, chosen ones, we rise higher, louder, and stronger than ever.